In this video, I'm going to show you everything you need to know about nSuite and nSolve add-ons for hard surface modeling in Blender. Addon is from Team C, the same team that developed HardOps and BoxCutter. I'm going to show you how to set it up, which tools are really important, which tools are not so important, and how you can implement it into your hard surface workflow. Let's get started. The first step is going to be installing the add-on, and we install add-ons a little bit differently than we used to. What we used to do is go to preferences, go to add-ons, right, and then click here and install from disk. Now, I would not recommend doing it this way because Blender can confuse external add-ons for extensions, and you're going to end up with pythons, cobras, and other serpents as errors. So what you want to do is you want to drag and drop it to your window, right? So open Blender, find the zip file with nSolve add-on and simply drag it in like that and release it, press OK, and you're good to go. And you're going to see these two popping up here without any issues. Now, if you're going to go to preferences and you're going to look for nSolve, right, you will see it's already installed and everything is peachy. So that's how you do it. Now, if you're new to Blender and you're thinking, well, why do I need add-ons to work in Blender? You know, I can probably do anything I want in vanilla Blender. Why would I need to spend money on add-ons? Well, let me tell you, add-ons gonna save you a lot of time, but in addition, you're gonna be able to do stuff you can't do in Blender. nSolve has at least one or maybe even two tools that literally you can't replicate these behaviors in vanilla Blender. You have to use an add-on, and it's a really powerful tool, and I'm gonna show you how to use it. But before you get there, you know, if you're new to Blender and you're still struggling with getting your head around, you know, the menus, the workflows, the everything, go ahead and click on the link in your video description, grab our Hard Surface Accelerator course, which will teach you not only all the UIs, the menus, and, you know, proper hard surface workflows, but also how to model, how to edit, basics of designs, editing your renders, and putting them on your portfolio so you can start building your portfolio that's gonna be your business card, which is gonna allow you to get jobs, recognition, and so on and so forth. So click in the link in the video description and enjoy the course. So the add-on is installed, everything is peachy, and when you're gonna press T on the T panel, you can see nSolve and nFlow installed here. Now you might be thinking, wait a minute, I just installed nSolve, why am I seeing nFlow? nSolve consists of three add-ons: nSolve, nSuite, and nFlow. We're going to be talking today about nSolve and nSuite. I will not be mentioning nFlow. nFlow, this one, is mostly for topology. So when you want to overlay an existing model with topology, like let's say quad topology, that's what it's used for. Like kind of similar to Retopoflow 3 for organic stuff. This one is really good for hard surface. I'm not going to be talking about it because I don't do that. For my workflow, I'm going to be using nSolve and nSuite, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. And I'll show you all the tools and how to set it up. Okay. Now, before we start, let me tell you that the menu for nSolve, right, is D. And the menu is shared by Decal Machine and BoxCutter. So if I have nothing selected in Blender and I'm going to press D, you will see I'm going to get my Decal Machine menu. And if you're wondering where on earth I got all these lovely decals and trim sheets from, well, these are our packs from Blender Bros, and also some of these decals are my personal decals, but they currently on the store. On Blender Bros store, you can buy both packs. So if you like decals and trim sheets and you don't have these, go ahead, they are fantastic. And just as a tip, I can tell you that these decals now work together with our add-on Materialworks, so you can add textures and decals to your models in seconds, and they're gonna look fantastic, just like these models you can see on the screen. Now, another thing is that the same menu is being shared by BoxCutter. So if I'm gonna activate BoxCutter with Alt W, so now I'm in BoxCutter mode, right? If I press D, I'm gonna see Box Helper, which is the BoxCutter menu. So that's also not what we want, right? So in order to activate nSolve, what you wanna do is you wanna add some mesh or object to your scene. Go to edit mode, and you can see now the T panel changed, but we still have access to nSuite, right? So click on that, and it's again very unintuitive because you installed nSolve and now you have access to nSuite. It's, you know, it's confusing, but there you go. So now you're gonna see this nSuite panel on the bottom, but we're still missing nSolve. So what you want to do, you're gonna press D, and now you can see the nSuite panel, right? So now if you're gonna click here, you're gonna see nSolve gonna get activated, but nSuite's gonna disappear. So what you need to do, you need to click on this eyeball to see them both. And now you activated both nSuite and nSolve. So that's a lot of steps. Now let's organize them a little bit because they, kind of scattered. That's 1 and 2, a little bit small. So first of all, you can hover over this gizmo here and you can drag it with your left mouse button. Once you click and hold your left mouse button here on this gizmo, you can press S, hold S, and move your mouse left and right to scale it. So here too, left mouse button, hold S, and drag it to the right, and you're gonna scale it. And we can move it somewhere here, okay? Now this one could be slightly expanded. So if you click here on this expand gizmo, you're gonna see all the options under nSolve and all the options under nSuite. Now here's the first problem with this add-on, which can be very easily solved. I talked to Jerry about it and he showed me a solution, but it still doesn't work. So what happens is that even though you have these two eyeballs turned on to display these two bars, if you're gonna go to object mode and back to edit mode, you will not see the add-on. You're gonna have to reactivate it here, which is really annoying, okay? Especially when you work with other add-ons and you going back and forth between object and edit mode, which is what I do quite often. This will be infuriating for me. So what I would like to do is assign a shortcut to this add-on. So I'm gonna right click here and I'm gonna change shortcut to Control Q. And now Control Q, which by the way, by default is quit Blender. You're not gonna be doing that, so you can assign the shortcut. Now it should be working. So if I'm going to go to object mode, back to edit mode, Control Q, I'm back in game. Now I like that, okay? And the final step is to save preferences. Because if you don't save preferences, you will not see this setup when you're going to reopen Blender. So what you want to do is you're going to go here and you're going to just save preferences. And if you can't see that button, go here and disable this auto save preferences, save prefs, close the window. And when you're going to reopen your Blender, everything's going to be peachy. All right, so go to mesh, add a cube. Let's add some cavity here and go to edit mode, Control Q, and we're back in game. And now we can start talking about all these tools. You have two menus in nSolve. So you got the D menu, which we talked about already, and you also got this tiny panel here, which is mainly for the nSolve, okay, not for the nSuite. So if I'm going to select any of these tools here on the nSolve panel, you can see that the left mouse button changes to whichever tool I selected. So I can do this also here, right? So I can switch between the tools on the menu, either here or here. Now these are going to be shortcuts for your Shift, Control, and Alt keys. And these are also tools from this menu. So let's say I'm in a selection tool and I want to switch very quickly to, let's say, slide tool, which is here. I don't have to really click here. I can just hold Shift and it's going to work. So let me show you, right? If I'm going to run a Control R here, which is a loop, and I'm going to run the selection tool, let's say on the top part, and then I wanted to slide this edge a little bit further, I'm going to hold Shift and I can slide this edge like this, all right? So you don't have to press GG and slide your edge, you can simply hold Shift and slide it, right? So that's what this panel does. Now you can obviously change all this, and when you customize it, you can save it on the different profile, which is called the persona in nSolve, okay? So you can add the persona here, you can set all these things in here and save like a profile on a gaming pad for different games. Just the same principle, okay? So that's what this panel is here for. Honestly, I don't really use it. You also have some options here. I don't even know what that thing is, and honestly I don't care. The most important thing is that we need to determine which tools here are actually essential and which tools are not, because not all of these tools are needed on these bars, and honestly it's just too much and too confusing. So we're gonna go through all these tools and I'm gonna tell you why I would be switching some of them off and obviously how they work. So first tool is gonna be the selection tool, which is exactly the same as B selection in Blender. And if you select this tool and you run a selection, you can see if it's the same graphics, so it's a B selection tool. You can select stuff, or you can subtract from selection, you can add to selection, or you can also select an intersection. So if you go to D menu with this tool selected and expand the nSolve panel, you can see here on the selection tool, because you see a left mouse button set to select, just like in here, right? And then you can change what behavior this tool is going to inherit. So if I wanted to add to selection, let's say I wanted to add this face in the back here, I just simply go to additive mode and I'm going to run another selection, and that's how it works. Now, since this tool works exactly the same as Blender B select or the box select, because when you select with box select and hold shift, you're going to add to selection. If you're going to hold control, you're going to deduct from selection or subtract. And if you're going to hold shift and control, you're going to create an intersection of selection. So you may be wondering, why the hell would I need that, right? Well, the problem is that you can't use Control Shift in this menu, so when the nSolve is open, because these keys are bound to these shortcuts. So that's why this tool exists. But honestly, I would rather turn it off with W key and use my B select because it's quicker. I'm just, used to it. Instead of actually having this open and going to, D menu and changing all these settings, it's annoying. What I would suggest for Team C to do is create similar pie menu to what Machine Tools has. So you can hold and, a pie menu pops and you can select which option or which mode of this tool you want to use with, specific tools here. This will be far more intuitive and quicker than this rubbish, right? So what I would do, I would remove this tool from here because honestly, I don't need that. So the way you do that, you go to D menu, go to options, and now you can remove or add back whatever was on this menu. So you can go here, go to select, and you can remove it and it's going to disappear, right? And be peachy. Cool. Next tool is going to be join. Join tool is interesting because it allows you to join verts like this from one vert to another, or from one vert to middle of an edge. So again, you can go to D menu and select what you want to do. Let's say from vert to a middle of an edge, right? There's another option here which is very useful for triangulation, for manually triangulating your model or fixing triangulation before you export your game asset. We actually showed that in our game asset course, how to manually fix triangulation before exporting to Substance Painter, Marmoset, Toolbar, etc. Because if you don't run triangulation in Blender before exporting your game asset, it's gonna get automatically triangulated in the software you're exporting to, and the algorithm can be different, and you're gonna end up with issues and shading errors on your maps, etc. Right? And you're gonna be wondering, what the hell happened to my model? Well, that's what happened. So anyway, if you're gonna, for example, have a bevel here and you wanted to star connect all these to one vert, what you can do is select the multi-join, turn off this mid-edge and vert to vert, right? And then when you drag this, you're gonna do that, which is bloody brilliant, I'm gonna say. Now, very similar tool exists with Mesh Machine. I'm gonna go to Blender 4.0 where my Mesh Machine is installed, and I can show you how to use that tool, and you can access it through Hardups menu as well. So if I go to these verts, select them, shift select the vert I want to connect to, go to Q menu with Hardups Mesh Machine, actually it's under operations here, and star connect, you're gonna get the same result. You didn't know that, did you? Well, there you go, you can do the same thing. So this tool is really similar, but it's very convenient, and also you don't have to go to menus. You simply select these verts and you drag them, and this is really brilliant. I'm not gonna lie, this is really fantastic. So if you're gonna be fixing topology on your model, that is really good. I'm gonna keep that tool, I like it. In addition, if you're gonna disable this and just select vert to vert, you can run a join, so like an edge across multiple edges. So from vert to vert across multiple edges, and it's gonna create, kind of a line. So that's pretty cool. So that tool is really good. Next one is merge. A review from the future here, guys. Just a quick interjection on the merge tool. I just wanted to record this. It's a bit of a better explanation than in my original video. So the merge tool is really simple. It works very similarly to how vanilla Blender works with merge to last, or Machine Tools with smart vert. So you select the merge tool, and you simply select the vert you want to merge, and then you simply slide it to the vert you want to merge with. And you see it's going to make a circle, right? And then if you want to do it with Machine Tools, you simply go click, shift click on one, which is quite frankly similar amount of clicks, to be honest. It's maybe a little bit easier to do it with the merge tool. And then obviously you have multi-merge. So if I'm going to go to nSolve, press D, and you can select the multi-merge. So if I'm going to select multiple verts now like this and slide, they're gonna slide to the middle like this, but I still have to select the verts. So honestly, select them all with Machine Tools, right? and then simply shift 1 and I'm done. Now, if you're merging multiple verts on a mesh, shift 1 can be tiring to reach to. So you could argue that, this nSolve is easier. This is why, you can either keep here collapse on the menu or merge, so you can either use collapse or merge. I think collapse might be a bit better because collapse is kind of, hold control and you simply expand, which is kind of area collapse, which is interesting. You don't have this with Vanilla Blender and you don't have it in Machine Tools, so this is kind of interesting. But the merge tool, I would simply, use Machine Tools. For me, it's just easier and I'm used to it. Next tool is gonna be slide. Now this one is interesting because normally when you want to slide in Blender, you have to press GG to slide, right? And this tool is gonna do it for you, but since we have it set to shift click, right? So shift click and slide, I don't really need it, the same with verts, right? So I don't need it in here because I already have it in here. So it doesn't matter what tool I'm in. If I hold shift, I'm gonna enter slide mode. So, waste of space, right? So I'm gonna nuke this, okay? This one is line, and I don't really see a point of this tool at all. It allows you to draw a line like this. So let's go to line, right? And it allows you to draw a line. Now the problem with this one is that it's gonna create additional verts on a way. And so it's not really kind of, estimating or kind of anticipating where you really want to, guessing, where you want to go. I want to go from here to here. So not as good as join, because join would join these two with a perfect line, whereas the line tool is just not going to do a very good job. You see, it's just sloppy. So honestly, I don't see a point of this tool. I'm just going to nuke it, okay? I don't like it. Now, next tool is going to be collapse, which is this one, right? Which is kind of similar to merge, to be honest. It's supposed to be a bit more logical and not collapsing everything to center, but kind of judging the situation and collapsing geometry. But honestly, I want to have a full control over what's collapsing and what's not collapsing. But technically, it works the same way. You just drag it and, it just collapses geometry. So, honestly, I don't see a point of this tool, to be honest. I would just nuke it. So go here and nuke it. I don't need it. Next one is going to be dissolve. This one is interesting. So when you're in edge mode and you click and drag, let me just go to edge mode, you're going to dissolve specific edges. The problem with this tool is that you can't really select multiple edges and then dissolve them. You can do this in Vanilla Blender. You simply, select the tools, select the edges and Control X to dissolve them. So honestly, if you have to dissolve multiple edges in different areas to clean up your retopology, for example, or when you redirected a flow, whatever, that could be interesting. But I would rather assign it to, to a control function or, for example, line function, right? So in order to clean this tool a little bit here, and to clean up this interface here, what I would do is I would run merge under control, right? And run this dissolve under alt, okay, so here. And then I can delete both of them from the menu. So the merge can go from the menu and the dissolve can go from the menu, right? Now we are left with offset and this knife. Now offset is really good. This is one of these tools that are, bang on. So offset, what it allow you to do, it will allow you to select edges, right, with this turned on, and when you drag them, it's going to create this really lovely kind of a bevel at 90 degrees. You can do this in Vanilla Blender because, you can just grab a cube, right? You can go here, select all these edges, Control B, scroll down to 3 segments, press P, flex them, press A to adjust the distance, and you're good to go. The problem is that Blender is going to remember these settings, right? So next time you're going to be running a bevel, it's going to do this. So you're going to have to go here and adjust the profile, or simply, press P. So again, go here, press P, and you're going to have to collapse it and, create more or less the bevel you want, right? Which is a little bit annoying. This tool is actually very useful, and I would definitely keep that. And if you're going to be running sub-D, you will need these securing loops, especially on hard surface, to create soft bevels around your mesh. So 100%, this is really good. And I would definitely keep that here. Now the knife tool here is completely useless because it's literally the same as in Vanilla Blender. So have the same tools. So if I'm going to run a knife tool here, you can see in the bottom, there are some options, by the way. All these options, right, the options here are for different tools as well. So if I'm going to go with a different tool like this one and start running it, you see the options in the bottom, right? So each of these tools are like a contextual menu here in the bottom, but this tool has exactly the same features, like S for showing angles, A for snapping, C for cutting through. I don't see a point of this tool, to be honest, so I'm just going to disable it. I can do the same thing with my knife in Blender. Also, I can use BoxCutter for cutting through with knife, and I'll show you in a minute how to do it. So I'm going to nuke that. I don't need it, right? So that's my nSolve menu. And BoxCutter, if you didn't know, also works in edit mode. So if I'm going to enter BoxCutter, right, I can go to my Addon and I can start slicing stuff the way I want to. Then I can press K for knife, B for bevel, which is something you can't do with a normal knife, and Bob Janko, right? And you got way more effective and intuitive cutting tool. Also, BoxCutter has a snapping feature, and you can change the angle of snapping here, right? So you can snap angle to, let's say, every 5 degrees. And then let me just redo this. So now angle is going to be snapping every 5 degrees. If you hold Control, you remove the snapping, so you can be very precise to what angle your knife you want to run it at, right? So it's really cool and very intuitive. Okay, so I prefer this, right? But again, you don't really need knife tool. Yeah, I think it's just pointless. So we got these. Now, last thing I want to mention is that you have a join feature also in HardOps. If you didn't know, not many people know about it. It's under Q menu, mesh tools, and edit multi-tool. If you go here and press J, you get to see all the menus here. J for join. You're gonna be able to run these, kind of join edges from a vert to vert, which is kind of like a maybe pre-idea for this join feature from nSolve, which by the way is far more robust and has more features and is really interesting. So yeah, but that's what it came from. So you can also do this with HardOps. So from nSolve, technically the only tool that we're getting that's unique is this offset tool, which is really cool. Now nSuite on the other hand has 2 or 3 tools that are really, really good. So let's talk about it. First of all, you're gonna have this hard loop cut. So let's enable this, right? And once you enable it, you can't rotate your mesh, which is a bit of a shame. So you need to rotate your mesh beforehand. And I think this is really not very intuitive because I want to see my mesh from all the angles when I'm doing that. So, maybe there's a limitation of how it's programmed, because it's actually quite interesting. So you hover over your mesh and you just decide where you want to place it. You can obviously use hotkey keys here on the bottom for different axes. Let's say we want to drop it somewhere here. You click, and then you can move this anywhere you want on your mesh, and it's going to disregard the edges it passes through. So this is really cool. It's kind of like a preview where you want to drop it. And when you want to drop it, you just drop it. And then it's going to add a cut. But honestly, you can do the same thing with BoxCutter. So if I'm going to run a cut here with BoxCutter, press K for knife, I can switch to knife. And if I, press space, I'm going to run a cut on my mesh. But not many people know that I can change this cut. So if I'm going to run a cut again, and I'm going to press tab, I'm going to pause the cutter, okay? Then you can create a knife cut, and now you actually have a live Boolean knife cut running through your mesh, and you can do all kinds of things. Like, for example, you can change the size of it, you can move it freely, you can rotate it on, for example, specific axis. So let's go here and rotate it. RZ, yeah, you can rotate it, hold shift to release the lock. So you have a lot of options. You can even bevel this thing, okay? So this is way beyond the amount of control that you have with nSolve. So honestly, this tool for me is absolutely pointless. So I'm going to remove it. I don't need it. So let's go here and let's collapse to nSolve, and under nSuite, you get access to all these tools. I don't need this hard loop, pointless. Now this one is a Control R, which is a regular, loop cut. So you might argue that the Control R is a bit of a difficult shortcut to get to. And if you're adding a lot of loops, this could be tiring on your wrist. But if you don't, it's a pointless tool and I'm not using it either, so I'm just gonna nuke this, right? So let's go to the menu and nuke the loop tool. Now next one is gonna be hard edge slide. This one is interesting. So let me just clean this up so you can clearly see what I'm doing. Okay, so let me just add another cube. I'm gonna run a bevel here, and then we can enable this and sweep in the bottom. Now, if I select this edge here, okay, what this tool allows you to do is gonna create a line between two edges that's gonna be locking the area around the edge that you selected, and you can slide in between them this edge and create a new edge on top of it. Now, this is quite useful if you want to add additional topology, but honestly, you could also do this with Control R, right? Though this tool allows you to slide, you know, on a mesh that disregards n-gons. So for example, if this one, for instance, was, you know, an n-gon, and I couldn't add a loop here on this side, right? So, you know, horizontally, because it's an n-gon, I can add it here, here, but not here. You know, this tool will still allow you to do it. So, you know, boom, and I can do that, right? So it's pretty cool. So for this kind of a very unique use, you could keep that tool, and I reckon, you know, it might be useful. So, you know, I'll keep it. Now, the limitation of this tool is that you cannot slide multiple edges. So if I'm going to select 3 of them, it's going to slide the last edge, which is going to be the active edge, right? So there you go. And that's a slide tool. Okay, next one is going to be offset edges, and this one is literally the same as this one, but it works a bit differently because nSuite works in a different way than nSolve. So if I'm going to select these edges, the way this tool works is I click that tool and then click and drag these edges. This one, you need to click and drag from this icon, which is a little bit unintuitive, to be honest, because I work here, not here. And since I have this tool here and I prefer this one is a pointless tool for me, so I'm going to nuke it. So I'm going to go here and nuke it. Now, next tool on this list is this one, which is a hard bevel, and this one is actually worth probably 50 bucks. This tool is worth buying the add-on for. That's my opinion, because the algorithm on this tool is crazy, and it's actually similar to, I think, what Hypercursor is doing. So if I wanted to bevel this edge here, I can't do it because you see that I'm going to be bumping into, you know, into these edges. I just simply press C to enable clamp overlap, so the bevel, you know, doesn't overshoot through other edges. That's this as far as I can go, right? I can't go further in this. I would need to be dissolving these edges in order to, you know, create a wider bevel, right? I can't go further than that. However, with this tool you can. So I'm going to select this edge here and click this tool, and you see now I can actually bevel or chamfer through any geometry that's on my way. This is crazy because you really can't do it in vanilla Blender. It's just, you know, that's black magic. This is actually black magic. Okay, this, I don't know who coded this, but you know, I would not like to play chess with this guy. Okay, so this is fantastic, right? You can't do it in vanilla Blender. You know, this is crazy, and it's gonna save you a lot of time and cleanup as well. So this tool is probably the most valuable tool in the entire add-on. Now, next tool is completely useless in my opinion. It's just a gimmick, this mesh cut thing. So if I click that and I'm gonna cut my mesh, the red part's gonna get cut off and this part's gonna remain. So if I release it, that's what's gonna happen. And every single time when you want to cut something, you need to run another one. Now I'm gonna have to flip that because you see the red part is on the bottom here. So if I do that, this one's gonna disappear. So I have to press F, you can see in the bottom, to flip it, to do that. Now, I have 2 problems with this tool, major problems. One is that this mesh is, you know, a real mesh, which means not a boolean, okay? You see it's a real face with real verts, so I can't adjust it anymore. And 2, when I'm running this cut, okay, from a view, because it's a view-based cut, and if I want to adjust the size of it like I can do here, but I want to see that from this perspective, I can't do it, because if I do that, it's going to switch the cut to the view. Watch. You see what I mean? That's a problem. So as long as it's an interesting tool or idea, it's completely useless. Because what I would prefer to do is I would prefer to use a BoxCutter, okay? Because with BoxCutter, I also have Addon. I can cut it like this. I can convert it to live, which is gonna be a live cut. So if I hold shift when cutting, I'm gonna have a live cut. And now I can move this, adjust it, rotate it, bevel it, solidify it. I can do whatever the hell I want with it. You can't do it with the other tool. And it's a modifier, which means, it's been live on my mesh, right? So what's the point? I just don't see the point, all right? So for me, that tool is absolutely useless. So I'm going to remove it. Okay, so let's go to edit mode, right? And nuke that rubbish. So nuke it. Now, next tool is a project line tool, which is similar to what we had here. You just project line, moving on, okay, moving on. This one, however, is really interesting. So let's say I wanted to, convert this to sub-D mesh, and I wanted to combine these verts with these verts, right? So I wanted to take some of these edges from here and move them to the other side. I'm gonna create a selection that's one vert larger than what I want to, kind of move to that side. So let's say I wanted to have these 6 edges or verts, and I wanted these edges to continue to the other side. I will create a larger selection, right? And then what you need to do is you need to click, hold, and move this tool. And now, if these lines don't align with what axis you want to run them on, you can either press F for flipping it. You can select the axis here to x-axis, z-axis, y-axis, until you're gonna find the axis you want to run them on. Go past your target and release, and you're done. And this is pretty cool. But let me show you another really awesome use of this tool. So let's grab a box cutter and our dots here. Let's go to a circle cut, hold control and run a cut here and just run it through this mesh, and I'm going to apply it. So, control click on sharpen. Now let's say I wanted to create a, kind of like an offset around this mesh here, around this loop. And I didn't really want to use this offset tool here. I could do this, right? But it's going to create a mess, right? Because I'm going to have these, edges here causing problems. And even if I turn off the loop slide, it's going to still move these connecting edges, right? And I don't want that. So watch this. With this selected, right, I'm going to select this tool, click, hold, and drag. And then I'm going to press F to flip this, right? And until it's gonna be aligned with my face, and release. None of these these verts were affected or edges. They all stay in the same place, and now I can start collapsing them. So I could actually switch here from merge to collapse, and I could use my collapse tool to collapse these, right? So I could hold control and collapse these, but you see that it's not gonna really work that well for me because it's gonna collapse too many of these verts, right? So in this case, this tool will not work the way I want it to, so I'm actually use dissolve. So I'm going to hold Alt and I'm going to dissolve these edges here because I don't need them. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to dissolve them, right? And we good to go. And this one should be, kind of merged in here. And this one also should be merged here. So now we got a clean geo, and I can run, a loop here. We still have some n-guns. Let's just press 3 to clean it with machine tools. Oh yeah, we have angles on the bottom, that's why. So you see, in this situation, what would be good really would be to run a box cutter cut through it. So, watch, if I'm going to run a box cutter through it, let me just go to box cutter, right, like that. And I'm going to run a box cut here like this, okay. So press K for knife and slice it, and now I got a loop here in the middle. You see, I can move it up. And I'm peachy, so now I can run my sub D, which is why, again, I think that BoxCutter is way better for creating loops cuts and knife cuts, It's way more intuitive and has way more options, and it's more powerful. That's why I don't use knife cut really in Blender, unless when you read apologizing and you need specific cuts from vert to vert, that's when knife tool is essential. But for stuff like this, forget about it. BoxCutter is way better for that. So anyway, this is not a use for this tool, and like I said, this tool is very good. It's gonna save you a lot of time when you're gonna be, for example, cleaning a mesh for preparing it for sub D. That tool is fantastic. Okay, next tool here is gonna be this project circle, and I really don't see myself using it either. I can do it with BoxCutter too, and I think I can do it better. So here, what this tool does is projects a circle on your mesh. The problem is that even if I increase the number of verts here, the projection is, done in a view. So, however you project it, you're gonna end up with a yo-yo. Now, there's a way around it. You could go here, select this bevel in the middle, go to hard ops with Q menu, go to mesh tools and align view, then click here, zoom it in, and now when you're gonna project it from the middle, it's going to resemble a circle, okay? But that's the only way to do that. But you can do the same thing with hard ops and BoxCutter. So, let me just turn on BoxCutter, go to mesh tools, not this one, align view, right? With my dots enabled, I hold control and I can precisely determine where my circle, I want it to be placed, which is better than the project circle tool from nSolve. So now I can run a circle cut here like this, right? And obviously I can change with shift number of verts here. So let's say 30 and simply cut or change it to knife. So, I could run a knife here too, right? So press K and do the same thing. And you're gonna end up with literally exactly, the same result. So honestly, I don't see a point of this tool. I would never be using it, to be honest. So just nuke it. Now this one is interesting, project grid. It's very similar to dice from hard up. So if I'm gonna go and select the face, go to Q menu, go to dice, right? Press V, and I can scroll in and out to, change this grid. And I can always, use all these options here, additional options to adjust it. And once I'm done, I click and I got a grid. And the positive thing here is that you got a grid that's perfectly fitted within, within this mesh, within this face, right? So, these quads here are evenly spaced, which is really important. Now this tool here is a little bit different. So when I have a face selected and I'm going to click and drag it right here, I can hold control to rotate it, and I can zoom it in or out, right? So I can do all kinds of things here. I can release control, hold shift, and I can freely rotate it if I want to. But it's a little bit fiddly. Also, I don't know if there's a way of actually moving this tool. So you see like I'm stuck here in this area, which is not ideal. So, I don't know. It's just a little bit, it's kind of unfinished for me, this tool. I'm not impressed by this at all. It's, when you release that, you can actually add more segments here and there. But like I said, it's not as accurate as the dice from hard ops, because it leaves these tiny quads and endguns here, and it's a bit messy. I think this one is much cleaner, to be honest, right? Because it's specifically fits the our mesh here, and I think it's much better. And then you can just clean this up here, switch here from collapse to merge, right? And you can just hold control and just merge these, and you're good to go. You could just merge these here, right? And merge these and merge these, and you're done. And you got then you obviously have to fix this problem here. And there you go. I would prefer to use dice, okay, over this one. So honestly, this one can go away. I'm not going to be using it at all, right? Next one, this one is, I don't know, it's bizarre, because it just creates random selections on your mesh like this. So I don't see myself using that tool at all. If I want to select a specific loop around, an endgun area, I can use Mesh Machine with Alt click, and it's going to select through endguns. So I would never really use this tool. I don't know what it's for. And in addition to that, if I hold control, I can easily select through endguns as well. So I don't really see what this tool really is doing. Okay. And I would just simply do what I usually do with tools I'm not going to be using, which is removing them. Now the last tool is actually quite useful. This one's going to analyze your mesh and tell you where you have quads and where you have endguns and where you have triangles. But in addition to that, it's going to be updating live. So quads are going to be kind of this grayish blue, whatever it is. Then triangles are yellow and angles are red. And if I'm, for example, going to collapse, so let's say actually dissolve, so hold Alt and dissolve this edge, you see I'm going to remove these two triangles and now I'm going to have a quad. And if I'm going to solve, for example, this angle here, I'm going to get a quad as well. So if I ran a tool here, so let's get join and, you know, run a tool here, I'm going to get a triangle here and the quad here. And if I dissolve this one, I'm going to end up with this situation. And obviously this is not the way I would go about it, but I'm just showing you how it works. And now you see that this triangle was changed to quad, and this one was changed again to an n-gon. So now maybe I would like to use the merge tool and merge this vert to this one to convert this one to quad. And that's how it works, right? So this is going to update live, which is really cool. And I think on the preferences, you can change colors too. So if you go to nSolve, right, you have themes here. You see you can change colors of all your tools, which is really cool. So if you want to adjust stuff, this is where you do it. Just remember to save preferences. All right, well, that's it. These are the tools that I'll be using. So we have, what, 6 tools? I mean, you could argue that we could add collapse here and keep merging here, but honestly, merge, I'll probably merge with machine tools. So when I could keep collapse here as a control option and just nuke merge, I'm not going to be using it. So I got 6 tools that I'll be using with this tool. But, you know, if you are into mesh cleanups, you might be willing to use different tools, and in a different setup you can very easily customize this add-on. So for 23 bucks, this is an absolute steal. I mean, this hard bevel tool alone is worth the money. So, you know, I would pay 23 bucks to just have this added to hard ups or something, because it's a really good tool, and this is going to save a lot of time and headache. Also, it's gonna kind of, you know, allow you to model a little bit like in a CAD software, because you don't care about bevels, you know, encroaching on other existing topology, right, and being blocked by topology, which is really cool. Anyway, that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. And like I said in the beginning, if you want to get into hard surface modeling and you're not sure how to start, or maybe you started and you're still confused, you know, you were watching a lot of fragmented videos on YouTube and you still don't have the idea how it all works, grab the course and, you know, within 2 weeks, you're going to be very efficient and proficient in hard surface modeling. And if you don't believe me, go to our website, to our testimonial page. We have hundreds upon hundreds of testimonials over there, so you can check them out and see for yourself. Also, the course comes with a money back guarantee, so if you don't like it, mail us within 60 days, tell us you don't like the course, and we're gonna refund your money. And we can easily offer this kind of a money back guarantee because we know how good the course is, and we know that hardly ever anyone refunds the course because it genuinely helps them. So check it out, link in the video description, and if you click on the link in the video description, you're gonna end up with a nice discount. So enjoy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.